Is Julia Margaret Cameron's photography anti-feminist? I'm the artsy anarchist. Let's talk about art and culture. Virginia Woolf wrote a play inspired by her great-aunt Julia, where Julia Cameron says, "All my sisters were beautiful, but I had genius. They were the brides of men, but I'm the bride of art." This captures how different and bold Cameron must have been for a time. Back in the 1860s, women artists and writers were often seen as a bit scandalous, but Cameron didn't fit that mold. She was known as a determined and energetic woman who wasn't afraid to push boundaries. Whether that meant bossing around famous older men to get the perfect pose, inventing a new photography style with soft focus and close-ups that broke all the rules, or successfully starting a business to support her rather big family. Cameron definitely didn't match the typical image of a shy, modest Victorian woman. But interestingly, when you look at her photos, it's not obvious at first that they came from such a strong-willed and unconventional person. Cameron was known for almost idolizing the great men she took photos of, overlooking their flaws and turning them into almost mythical figures. When it came to women, she mostly avoided photographing those who were older than 20 or didn't fit a certain classical beauty ideal. Instead, the women she did photograph usually appeared as characters from literature, the Bible, or mythology, portrayed as poetic, serious maidens whose stories were shaped by men. Interestingly, there is no evidence that Julia Margaret Cameron was somehow directly involved in the big debates about the woman question that were going viral in the 1860s. One might wonder if, by creating these dreamy, almost otherworldly images of young girls removed from everyday life, she was distancing herself from her own gender. That reminds of the type of intellectual and artistic women who emphasize their work isn't specifically female or political. Cameron's social circles certainly valued the intelligence of the women around them, wives, daughters, but they stopped short of supporting radical changes like divorce rights, women attending Oxford or Cambridge, or women taking on traditionally male roles. Cameron's position in these debates was somewhere between John Stuart Mill's strong calls for women's equality and the more conservative views that accepted female inferiority. She didn't push for public legal reforms, but rather embraced a viewpoint rooted in Christian values and the poetry of Tennyson. Was Cameron anti-feminist? Looking at Cameron's life and work, maybe that's not a helpful question. Alternatively, I'd like to follow Anne McCauley's suggestion. That Cameron's photos don't fit neatly into modern ideas of feminism or anti-feminism. Instead, they offer a unique response to the debates about men's and women's roles going on in her social circle during that era. So Cameron's photographs should be seen as idealized visions or utopias built around beauty and art rather than deliberate social or political statements. One could say that she would have defined herself more as a bride of faith and art than as a bride of politics. For Cameron, photography itself fit perfectly into the kind of ideal behavior she as a Christian wanted to embody and promote. Her letters describe her journey with photography as a kind of spiritual pilgrimage. From struggles to later triumphs, she saw her role as an artist and also as a caretaker, helping the sick, supporting those in need, and inspiring awe through her art. Her way of addressing the woman question, though she might not have thought about it consciously, was to reject strict social limits on women and instead express through her photos the idea of a harmonious two-celled heart where male and female qualities beat together as one. Cameron managed to be both a bride of art and a bride of man, which definitely went beyond what people expected from women in her day. Her life and work are as impressive as they are controversial. Her photos, captivating. Their simplicity and ethereal beauty draw you in effortlessly. But that charm walks a fine line. As I read about Cameron's life, I couldn't help but sense some early girl boss energy and maybe even a hint of boy mom vibes. Though, of course, applying modern labels to a 19th century figure might be a stretch. I probably need to dig deeper before tossing around those kinds of judgments. Still, while I admire her photography, I'm a bit uneasy about the idealization that runs through her images. The gender roles Cameron portrays reflect the traditional Christian dichotomy of men and women, a framework that, as we know now, has often been harmful. Cameron herself lived a pretty privileged life, one that allowed her to largely sidestep the pressing woman questions of her era. Someday I'd love to dive deeper into Cameron's story, not just her art, but her life as a white Christian woman in the colonies. That's where even more tension bubbles up, a life of privilege shaped by rigid gender roles existing alongside a majority population facing systemic racial discrimination under colonial rule. Maybe my discomfort reveals more about me than about Cameron. Is it her or my own position of privilege and the lens of our current times that makes me uneasy? That's the power of art. It makes you feel, it makes you think, not just about the work itself, but about yourself. I love discussing women artists. It's a bit unfair, but maybe also a hidden blessing that women's art is often seen as inherently political in ways white men's art rarely is. Julia Cameron's story is definitely thought-provoking. Both her life and her art open up vital conversations about privilege, society, economics, and artistic expression. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Hope to see you back for my next video. Till then, be wild, fearless and untamed and ask the right questions.